Okay, so what we're going to do today, excuse me, is talk about making a mosaic. And the mosaic we're going to make is out of small pieces of paper. A mosaic is a type of art where you create an image using small pieces of something. And those small pieces of something could be anything from broken up pieces of glass to broken up pieces of plates, glassware, pretty much anything, magazines. And what we're going to use today are cut up pieces of construction paper. The first thing you want to think about is what are you going to make for your mosaic? That could be in a form of pretty much anything within reason. You don't want to do anything that's too detailed or complicated. For example, I'm going to just, for a lack of an idea, I'm actually just going to trace my hand. Now, normally I would trace my hand with a regular pencil because I don't want anything to show up too much that's going to take away from the image. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to outline with a white color pencil, and this is just so that you can see it on a video easier. Again, normally I would just use a regular graphite pencil, but for the purposes of this video, I'm using a white color pencil. Now you could do things like sports logos, words. You could do things like scenes. I had a student once do a sunset scene on a beach. So again, within a certain realm of possibility, without making this too difficult for yourself, think of something that you want to do. I've had students do the YouTube logo and other kinds of app logos. That's fine too, because a lot of times those logos are simple designs and they still look really cool after this project is done. So again, just for a lack of an idea for me, I decided to just outline my hand. You could do things like that, like abstract things. You could just do shapes. Now, once you have your idea, you got to think about what kind of colors you want to use. And since I don't have a specific thing like a logo of a team or the logo of an app, I'm just using my hand. I'm thinking of my favorite color, which is blue. So I'm going to do the hand blue. And I have to think about what I want to do for the background as well. So I got to think about what colors will look good with blue. Well, I know orange is a complementary color of blue, and a complementary color is when two colors are across each other on the color wheel. They make each other look like their best, look like their brightest. Also, a color that I think looks good with blue is yellow. So I'm going to do yellow for the background as well, because I want to do something a little different than just blue for the hand and one color. I want to break up that background into two colors. So what I would do is maybe I want to just draw some lines coming out this way, so that maybe this would be orange, yellow, orange, yellow, orange, yellow. I could do that. Now, once I have a plan, I need to get a pair of scissors. I'm going to need a glue stick. You could also use Elmer's glue. And I have the color, excuse me, a paper that I'm going to use. So I'm going to start with the hand. And obviously I'm not going to demonstrate this entire example top to bottom, left to right. I do have a finished example I'm going to show you, but I want to show you how to get started. So you'll take the paper that you're going to start cutting first, and the first thing I'm going to work on is the hand. Take a pair of scissors, and you're going to cut up on the paper like this. Not too big, not too small. And then I'm going to cut across this way. You could do different widths because some areas you're going to need smaller pieces. Some areas you're going to need a little bit bigger pieces. There are going to even be some areas you might have to cut a specialty piece. And when I show you my finished example, I'll show you some areas where I had to do that. So I'm not cutting too much. I'm just going to cut a little bit at a time. I will then take the glue stick. This is a purple one, but it dries clear. And I'm just going to do a small section at a time. Again, if you just have Elmer's glue that pours out of a bottle, you can just pour a little bit out and maybe spread it around with your finger a little bit, not too much. You don't want to do an entire area, because by the time, if you start here and this is all wet with glue, by the time you get to here, it's going to be dry. So just a small area at a time. So like I said, right here with the glue stick, I'm adding some of that glue. And I'm just going to pick up the pieces and start adding them. I like to have them come off the edge of the paper a little bit, just because when I'm done, I can kind of trim them off and I don't have to worry about being so perfect where I'm at the edge of the paper. Now the key here for the mosaic is making sure that when you put a piece down, the pieces are not touching. Listen, of course, I understand they might touch here and there, but consistently, these pieces of paper, when you lay them down next to each other, should not be touching. There should be a tiny space in between the pieces. Sometimes what might help you to move a piece around, if I put this down and I don't want to get too much glue on my finger and say, well, that's a little crooked, I could take a pencil, I could take a toothpick, I could take a paper clip, and I can just move that into place and make sure I press it down. Try not to get too much glue on your fingers, because the more you do that, it's going to be a little bit of a nuisance when you put a piece of paper down, and then when you lift your finger up, the piece of paper will start to come off. So if you realize you're getting too much glue on your finger, just rub it off. Rub the glue off, peel it off, and then you can move on. And if you get a little bit tired of just working with this one color for a while, because sometimes it might get a little boring, it might get a little bit tedious, maybe I'll just move on to a different color. So I say, you know what, I did enough of that for now. I want to move on to a new color. Again, I will take the next paper. I'm going to use yellow for now. I'm cutting up this way. Maybe I'll do different widths of cuts, just again, because I'm going to need some smaller pieces. I'm going to need a little bit of bigger pieces. And same thing this way. Some pieces are going to be a little smaller. Some pieces are going to be a little bit bigger. If I were to cut a piece like this, that's too big. This right here would be an example of a piece that is too big for your project. If I were going to start cutting pieces this small, if you can even see it, that would be an example of a piece that is too small. These are the size of pieces that I'm looking for. So again, I will take my glue stick. And what I want to do when I'm changing the color, I want to have this hand to have a little bit of an outline. I don't want the color right up against it. So what I'm going to do is actually leave a little bit of a space so that when I am done, the hand has an outline to it. Yeah, my finger, see right there, it kind of came off my finger when I lifted it up, because I'm starting to get a little bit too much glue on my finger. So I got to rub that off, and then I can move on to the next piece. Having a little bit of glue on your finger can help sometimes, just because it makes it a little bit easier to pick the piece up. But then just like that, it makes it sometimes a little difficult to raise your finger off the page without taking a piece that you just put down with it. So just something to think about. And like I said, that's where you might want to just periodically rub that glue off your fingers. But again, as you see, these pieces are not touching. I don't want them so far spread out to the point where I could put other pieces in between them. This is about as far spread out as you want your pieces to be. And then I can work on that, and then I can work on the next color. Like I said, I would do this whole area orange. Again, you can use Elmer's glue that comes out of a bottle. You would just squirt a little bit of the Elmer's glue on there, maybe rub it with your pinky, spread the glue around, make sure you rub that off. And again, just do a small area at a time, because if you do too much, it's just going to dry and you're going to waste all that glue. That's kind of why I like using the glue stick. It's a little bit easier just to do a section at a time. But if you don't have a glue stick, then just use Elmer's glue. Now, just to show you what a finished product would look like, but before I do that, actually, if you have all these loose pieces, if you have an area where you can just leave your project where it is, that's great. I have to move this because I'm working at a desk that my kids work at. So what I want to do is take these pieces of paper. I have an envelope right here. I'm going to wipe these off the edge of the desk into the envelope. And then they'll be nice and neat. I won't lose those pieces. I can just keep that with my project if I need to move this. If you don't need to move it, you have a workstation where it's yours and yours only, and you can just keep everything that you worked on where it is. Then you don't need the envelope necessarily. So let's show you what a finished project would look like. Here is the finished example. And like I said, right here you can see I left a little bit of an outline around the entire hand because I want that to stand out a little bit more. If I put this orange and this yellow right up against that blue, it would be a little more difficult to see what this is. This gives the hand a little bit of a separation, a little bit of an outline from the background. And as you can see, it's very full. I don't have big spaces in between the pieces. The pieces aren't touching. Maybe here and there could find a piece that is touching, but for the most part, it's pretty good. You can see some areas I needed to use smaller pieces, like when I was rounding off the fingers. Some areas I actually had to cut triangular pieces to fit in certain areas. So there are going to be those occasions where you have to cut a specific shape to fit into an area on your project. This project, top to bottom, left to right, is a mosaic that includes your image, that includes the background. So good luck with this project. If you have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to contact me, or if Mr. Seville is your teacher, do not hesitate to contact him. Have a good time, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.